This is Kits and Wagers, game week 12 in the Premier League. We're not even a third of the way through the Premier League season. It's kind of crazy to say, but we're getting near the end of November. I'm Adam Zdroik, joined by Chris Owen. 6 games, 6 bets. What's up, Chris? Are you refreshed after a break, a nice little break?
Yeah, no, I am, Adam. Good to be back. Game week 12 already. You know, not even a third of the way through, but also like almost a third of the way through. So
we're getting
there. Yeah, I feel like it's been a while, but also I'm like, we got so much time left. Yeah, great little week off. Caught U.S. men's national team look pretty good this past week. I caught both games. But the biggest thing for us here is this has always been a Smoke and Bird show. And we're coming up on Thanksgiving next week. Maybe we do a special edition of Smoke and Birds next weekend and the Kits and Wagers podcast. But I'm just, short week next week with the holiday, and we'll obviously be back. But I'm just like fired up to get back into some games this weekend, and I'll get the menu set, get ready for a special Thanksgiving next week.
When you say Smoke and Bird show, does that mean like we should do the show out by like our smokers, or just have like a smoking bird right in like the background, or what's going on?
When I said it, I hadn't thought too hard about it. Just that it's a special occasion. I think it would, I'd have to really test my Wi-Fi to see if it would get out to the backyard. Yeah. And so
I guess that's a
that
problem.
would be kind of funny, and also, test the audio and stuff like that. But maybe I do like a pre-smoke of a bird here this weekend, and I'll just eat turkey. It's like when NFL on Fox does like what's their like award on Thanksgiving, like the gambling gambler, or like the
turkey leg,
and they give it out to the player of the game. Maybe we do that.
Okay, we'll give turkey legs out over here in America. Miles is saying loves the stash. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, Chris is supporting the Movember stash over there. But yeah, rotowire.com/soccer or /betting/soccer. You get the odds for all the Premier League matches or the 5 major European leagues. We got all those over there. But I got the records up on the screen. I'm 18-12. I'm up 733 on $100 bets. Chris, you are also up money. You're 12-15, but you're up 131. That is because you hit like a 250 plus 250 Liverpool bet at some
I've hit
point.
A couple. I've hit a 175. I hit a 245. When I'm making these bets, there's just a couple you just feel strongly about, and you see the number and you're like, all right, I got to go for it. So
you got to let it ride.
Yep.
We got 6 games on the docket here, and Chris's first one he's talking about is maybe it's very intriguing. It's one of the more interesting matchups I think we have in the early season. 2 teams have been playing pretty well, arguably. Bournemouth, both teams actually have big wins because, they are 2 teams that just recently beat Manchester City. So that is probably one of the more of the talking points. Bournemouth are home against Brighton. Bournemouth are a plus 140 favorite. Brighton are plus 180. The odds have actually changed a decent amount in the past few weeks. Bournemouth were plus 110 to win this game. Now they're plus 140. Interesting that the odds have moved like that. Not sure exactly why. Maybe because Brighton more recently coming off the win there against Manchester City. But injury-wise, there are some things here and there for each team. I wouldn't say there's anything major for Bournemouth outside of Ryan Christie's suspension. Brighton have been dealing with minor knocks, minor issues throughout the season. But they just got Joao Pedro back from his injury. He was probably out for about a month, came on off the bench against Man City. Then I think he got an assist, and I think he scored the winner, or maybe he scored the first one, assisted Matt Riley, something like that. But that's pretty big for Brighton to get Joao Pedro back, who is their PK taker, arguably overall maybe their best player. But interesting matchup here between the 2 Bs. Not Brentford, sorry. Just the 2 B clubs, not including Brentford.
Yeah. Joao Pedro was honestly came on against City and was electric. I thought he played really great. But this is you said it right away, but this is probably one of the more interesting matches of the weekend here. We'll get it kicked off to, I guess there's a game before this, but pretty big slate to start on Saturday. And so really excited about this one. 2 teams. Brighton's 6th in the table, sitting on 19 points. They've got 4 more points than Bournemouth, but Bournemouth has been pretty strong as of late. Notably the 2-0 win over Arsenal, and then a 2-win win over Manchester City, and then they sandwiched in between that was a 1-1 draw at Villa, but then they followed up that win against Man City with a 3-2 loss to Brentford. So a little bit of a mixed bag, but they've actually been quite good at home. They have won. They've only dropped points. I guess they have one loss at home where they lost to Chelsea earlier in the season, but otherwise they've reeled off 3 straight wins at home. I kind of was all over the board for this one. I was like, Brighton's strong, but I'm kind of leaning on the 3 straight wins for Bournemouth here at home. But a big part of that is they've only conceded 4 goals at home this season, which is a pretty strong clip there. I actually like for this one, I think Bournemouth are going to come away with points. And then, the Bournemouth double chance wasn't quite good enough to put that bet in a show. But I kind of sweetened the pot a little bit just because they've been so good defensively. I'm gonna couple a Bournemouth double chance and go under 3.5 goals at -110. I think this is like a 1-1 here, or a pretty low scoring affair, despite Brighton's ability to kind of get forward and put defenses under pressure. I still think this is like a 1-1, or maybe even Bournemouth win this and continue to ride that hot streak at home. So I'm on the Bournemouth double chance and under 3.5 at -110.
Yeah, I think taking the home side is the way to go here. Bournemouth at home, just 2 teams that press, and 2 teams that have, in certain matchups, had a bunch of defensive mistakes. Brighton comes to mind, the game at Chelsea. Bournemouth, their game at Brentford. Just a couple matches where their defenses just made mistakes, gave up a ton of goals. Are you worried at all about these defensive mistakes and 2 teams that are pretty good pressing in terms of that under 3.5 number, or as you said, you're kind of leaning towards that 1-1, I guess?
Yeah, I feel like this is, yeah. I think Bournemouth are good enough defensively, and they kind of like muck this game up a little bit versus like a back and forth where we've seen Brighton, involved in some of those games. Or like, I guess Bournemouth in their previous, matchup with Brentford. Brentford, by the way, that game, Brentford's given up a ton of goals. They're scoring a lot of goals. That's just like how they distinctively play. I think, Bournemouth found themselves in that style of match versus like being at home and kind of dictating play, rather than like traveling away to Brentford, where that one kind of gets away from them. And frankly, the last 10 minutes of that game was pretty insane. So I don't see it being as back and forth as maybe some of the other Brighton games have been. I think they kind of sit in and we see a lower scoring affair, and obviously evidenced by my bet here.
I'll take it.
But I don't know. Do you think Brighton? Takes a little bit more? Or are you?
No, I'll lean the Bournemouth side. I just think playing at home, and Brighton, I don't know, they still have some issues here and there. They're getting a bunch of guys back. We said Joao Pedro, but they're getting some defenders back. I think Lewis Dunk is an option again. Baleba has been dealing with a knee issue. O'Reilly came off the bench some of his first minutes of the season before the breaks. He already picked up something. There's Hitchellwood picked up something too. There's these little knocks here and there. But against better sides, outside of that Man City game, it just seems like they're good enough to win matches. But that second half of that Man City game kind of maybe changed my mind on how I'm going to bet on them going forward. But we'll see how they play in this matchup. Next game we are covering. This is the first match of Saturday, the early one. Leicester City are home against Chelsea. Another match where the odds have took a massive movement in the last couple weeks. Again, you can see these on our betting pages. But Leicester City were plus 350. Now they're plus 550 to win. Chelsea were minus 155. Now they're minus 220 to win. So a pretty big jump here. And some of that has to do with injuries. Some of that just because I think it's more reasonable here to bet Chelsea, which is kind of where the public are leaning. But in terms of Leicester City, arguably their most creative player, Buonanotte, is suspended. Ayew picked up something over the break. Fatawu, he tore his ACL during the international break. He's been starting the last few matches. So Mavedidi's probably going to come back into the 11. Jamie Vardy missed the game before the break because of a back issue. Cooper talked, I think it was yesterday. Doesn't seem like that back issue has settled. So there's a bunch of injuries here. It could come into this one. my main worry for this bet, just in terms of, I was looking at Chelsea like over 2.5 goals, maybe even going a little higher, maybe some Chelsea corners, but excuse me, there could be a lineup involved here with Leicester that just has like, I don't know, 5 defensive midfielders, because they're missing so many of their attacking players, and they have Winks, they have Ndidi, Sumare, the other guy from Spurs, and I'm forgetting his name, as a defensive midfielder. Ali Skip is what it is, Oliver Skip. Yeah. So they have all these other options that they could throw in, and probably what they'll do anyways against Chelsea. So Chelsea, a team, when they play against weaker sides, they put up goals in bunches. Saw the FC Noah game recently in UEFA play. We saw the Wolves game earlier in the season where they got 6 goals. If Leicester make mistakes, which they're prone to do, I think this is a game where Chelsea could score a bunch of goals. Instead of doing the Chelsea over 2.5, because I do think maybe because Leicester plays so defensive, that maybe it could be like the 2-0 type of game. So I'm just going Chelsea minus 1.5 on the goal line there. That's plus 110. So Chelsea minus 1.5, 2-0, 3-1. However you see it, I just think Chelsea are overall the better team. Leicester, maybe throw in injuries, is already one of the worst teams in the league. Chelsea, I think, are pretty easily the best side to take here.
This one's fun, but I feel like we got to do something crazy, like over 4.5. Like
for Chelsea or just for the game here?
Just for the game. Like you look at.
I think I'd just take Chelsea with all these attacking injuries. Why not just let's just
you
go on?
Yeah. Chelsea goal prop, like over 3.5 goals, and just see if they can hit that. I'm looking at the total goals, over 4.5 is plus 265. Like you look at these last 3-0 to Man United last time out. They had, I mean, this is EFL Cup, but there was a 7-goal game against United a couple weeks ago, like 5 goals against Southampton, 6 goals against Arsenal. Like they're just, I mean, Leicester are not that, despite how many people they might put in the lineup that are defensive, that doesn't make them a good defensive side. So I'm interested to see if like we just rack up some goals here for Chelsea. And obviously Chelsea have shown that they can fill it up too. So they've had a few games where they've scored 4 goals. So I'm intrigued, like just as like a, maybe, you like them winning by 2 goals at least here, but I think you couple that up with another like Chelsea minus 1.5 and like 4, over 3.5 goals or something like that to really go kind of hard on it.
Yeah, I think, we're both on the Chelsea side. I think this game will go 2 ways. It's going to either go Leicester play super defensively. They, Chelsea get 20, 30 shots, struggle to score consistently, struggle to score in the first half, maybe eventually get that winner kind of a thing, but Leicester holds strong for the most part. Or Chelsea score early, comes off the rails. They do get 3. They do get 4 goals, or whatever. So, yeah, I'll say over 3.5 goals for Chelsea plus 320. Scoring more than 4 goals away from home is always a tough bet, I'd say.
Yeah.
No matter who you're playing.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if you want to get a little saucy with it, but yeah, definitely the 3 over 2.5 Chelsea goals, like minus 1.5 would be a good parlay.
Yeah, I'll take like a 3-0, 4-0, something like that.
Yeah, totally.
Next game, Aston Villa are a team that's struggling. Crystal Palace, also a team that's struggling. Aston Villa, minus 155 to win at home. Crystal Palace, plus 450. Just 2 teams dealing with a ton of injuries all of a sudden. Aston Villa lost a bunch of guys over the break. So Kamara is out, Ramsey's out, Amadou Onana's out, Ezri Konsa is out. Seems like they're going to get Matty Cash back from his injury, but just a lot of guys who are injured. Not severely injured, so that's good news. But for this matchup, wonder how that's going to help here. About a few weeks ago, they played in cup play. Aston Villa played more of a B team. Crystal Palace played more of an A team when they lost. I think that was the match that Eze got injured in, and Wharton, actually, to be specific. So those guys are still out, though. Yep. And Nketiah is still out. Seems like they're going to get back Lerma. It seems like Doucouré is ready to start again. Will Hughes is back from a suspension. This is an interesting game because they played a few weeks ago and Crystal Palace won at Aston Villa. But what's the read on this matchup?
Yeah, this is a Palace have really not quite gotten going here this season. Here they're sitting in 18th place. They're 7 points, whereas Villa are kind of like, as we've seen teams do, they get into Champions League, they get into these European Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games where they got to go play like big clubs and then come back on the weekend, and we see them kind of drop off from their form of the previous season, which is kind of what has happened here. They're sitting in 9th place. There are a couple in there with about like 6 other teams, so it's not like one win could take them back up into the top 4. But this is you mentioned all of the injuries here, a little bit concerning. But I think I initially was like, all right, let me see what I can get for like a Villa win and over something, just because of how much Palace have struggled, but didn't really see a ton of what I wanted here. I thought about similar to your last bet here, I thought about taking Villa -1.5. That is plus 160. That's not my bet. I instead kind of narrowed in on some corners. What I went to the handy dandy RotoWire cheat sheet here, kind of narrowed in on an under corners bet here. Aston Villa conceding just 3.5 corners at home here. So they as they have been, they possess the ball at home. They're strong there. Well, Palace's struggles are not anything new to those following the league, but they're conceding just a little over 4 corners a game away from home. So I like under 9.5 corners. It's plus 140. I think this is maybe not the most exciting game that we've ever seen. I expected to so I basically think this is the best under corners. I think you can go to up to 10.5 and still get a pretty good number. If you're like 9.5 seems like it would be a little small or a little low, but I like it just because we're getting plus 140 odds here, and I'm going to keep hammering these plus 140, these like plus higher plus bets, and see if we can keep the stay above water here.
Keep the vibes going.
Yeah. So this is one that I'm most intrigued in here, just because Palace have watching them all season, you're like, when are they going to start to kick it into gears? But I think just like some of the Michael Elise losing him in the offseason to Bayern has really hurt how much they are getting forward.
Yeah, this is I was going to write about a bet for my article. I was originally looking at like both teams to score, Aston Villa side, but it's I went against it though. I'm not going to really bet this match. I don't know if I'm actually. We'll see what the lineups look like, but you look at the lineups. Without Onana and Kamara in there, they're two, true defensive midfielders. Maybe Ross Barkley starts, but he hasn't really played a ton this season, and he's coming back from injury. Then their best defender, Ezri Konsa, feels like that doesn't help. But at the end of the day, if you look at Crystal Palace's lineup, given their absences in the attack, maybe it doesn't matter. But I think your bet makes sense in terms of Aston Villa being one of the best teams, limiting corners. When you said that, I was like, I'm probably going to go, Palace 2-3 corners. Looked at the odds over at DraftKings. Crystal Palace over under is 4.5 corners, but it's -160 odds for the under. But yeah, I can ride with this bet. I usually don't like doing this many under corners when it's two teams like this, but I think, plus 140, good enough odds here. And the one thing about Crystal Palace is they at least have all their A squad defenders, and they're getting Will Hughes back, Takore Lerma. So they have all their defenders, similar to Leicester City. They have their defensive options, but they don't really have their attacking options at full strength. So, maybe this is going to be a dead match and nothing really happens. Something that may not be the case for this Manchester City home against Tottenham match. Arguably the match of the weekend. We have Manchester City -210 odds to win at home. Tottenham plus 500. Man City getting healthier. We'll see who actually starts in this one. Projecting Kevin De Bruyne back in the 11. Came off the bench before the break. Got another couple weeks of training. Foden didn't play with England over the break. Maybe he's a little healthier. So you got these guys in here. Kovacic picked up a new injury, so that doesn't help. But Man City a little healthier. And then the big thing for Tottenham is, in addition to already being without Van de Ven, Romero picked up an injury over the break. So it's looking like Dragusin and Ben Davies at center back against Erling Haaland, which is tough. So looking at these injuries for these teams, How much do you think that has a factor here? I didn't even mention the Bentancur 7-game suspension. He's been seeing a decent amount of minutes. So you look at some of these guys coming back for Man City. Maybe De Bruyne is ready to start. Then you have 2 second-string center backs. It's
This is like the all injured.
it's a little different. It feels like I look back at recent matchups. It's like almost every one of these games, like Tottenham has a bunch of injuries. Maybe just because these guys run too much for Spurs. It's kind of what it seems like. I don't know.
Well, I think this is already probably going to be the game of the weekend here. But you take out a couple center backs for Tottenham, and it's just going to be so fun. I feel like Ange is going to be like, screw it, let's go after, let's go for it. We're not going to sit in here and try to play like Ben, like Ben Davies is like a peak center back. Like they're going to be like, let's get the ball forward. Let's try to transition.
Similar to that one game where they played with 9 men and they still were like had the high line and were just getting blasted. That was against Chelsea, if I remember right.
Yeah, ping it up to to Son and like let him just go at like any of their outside, like Rico Lewis or whoever it might be on the wing, and just like let's see if we can get like a 3-3 thriller again here.
Yeah, I was initially going to be like, maybe Tottenham might have more possession, but if you look at Man City's schedule, their 4 losses all away from home. This is their first game at the Etihad in about a month here, which I think might be kind of relevant. But either way, I'm going with the Man City side. I know people are heavy on, fading Man City. They haven't really looked like the true Man City yet this season. Maybe that's still the case. They don't have Rodri. But against this back line of Tottenham at home, I can't imagine them losing 5 matches in a row, first off. But they're getting guys back. They don't have to start Pousse, whatever his full name is, the 5th string center back that's 18 years old. Man City don't have to start him, who he's made numerous mistakes every time he's played. So I'm looking at Man City money line. It's a single game parlay here. Man City money line, both teams to score plus 115. Even though I think Man City are going to win, they make a ton of mistakes without Rodri in the midfield. You got to feel like Tottenham are going to get a lot of opportunities on the counter, whatever it may be. They're going to get opportunities, but both teams to score, Man City money line plus 115. What do you think?
Yeah, the both teams to score as a standalone is minus 240, which is like pretty massive. Like I feel like is like crazy of odds as I've seen. So we expect a lot of definitely, like the odds makers are like, yeah, all right, we're going to see a few of them. So, I mean, Man City money line, tough not to say like, oh, yeah, all right, yeah, that makes sense. So, especially at home. But yeah, like you said, funny, Miles in the chat, Davies and Dragusin, the center back pairing, the majority of the last time Spurs beat City, like, I don't know the minutes breakdown there, but like, I don't know. I think
was that the League Cup game?
Yeah,
it was. So, I mean, you look at that, like Nico O'Reilly and James McAtee played 90 for Man City in that game. It was pretty much a B-level team there. Jacob Wright came on in the second half. It was Simpson Pousse, their 18-year-old center back or whatever is as he was talking about. But Haaland did not play in that match, is what I'll say.
Yeah, fair. So are we hitting the Man City over 2.5 goals here at minus 105? I feel like that might have to be a serious.
I don't know if those odds are good enough. Minus 125.
Yeah, I know. Like you'd expect like plus 140 for like something like that against.
Given how they're playing, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think. I mean, I didn't take a peek at the over, but you gotta wow, to get plus odds, you gotta hit the over 4.5 in this game to get plus 170. So I think we see.
You could do it.
I think it's going to be a fun game regardless. Definitely one like you got to be, put the seatbelt on the couch. Just be ready.
Put the seatbelt on. Chris's next game. This is Sunday. There's only 2 matches on Sunday. Chris he took it upon himself to take on Ruben Amorim's first match with Manchester United. And again, the odds have moved in this one. Ipswich Town plus 400 to win. Manchester United were minus 120. Now they're minus 155. The big question, I guess, with Manchester United, which I don't know if anyone knows outside of in the building, are Manchester United just going to automatically go to Amorim's favored formation of 3 center backs, or are they going to continue with like the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3? I guess, what are your thoughts on this? Because without knowing that, I personally don't want to like suggest a bet if I have no idea how they're going to play. So what are your thoughts on Amorim here and what he's going to do with this team?
This game's got some really fun storylines. You got the Tractor Boys at home hosting Manchester United with a new manager in their, in their first game away from home. So it's like, all right, do the Tractor Boys spoil that first match, or does Amorim come in and like get on a good foot right away here for them? And like,
well, you also have the Van Nistelrooy, a few wins. Got the team playing well a little bit before he left. Now he's not even with the team, so you got that in there too.
Yeah, a lot of interesting storylines here. Like Luton of last season, or like I guess previous teams that have been promoted. It's tough not to feel a little romantic about Ipswich here and kind of root for them. They play a fun style. I think Norwich City would be another team who would come up and try to like go at Premier League teams, despite everything we know about how that works out for them. Ipswich, same kind of like we're gonna play on the attacking foot. Is it Delap, Rory Delap, who's been coming on for them?
Liam.
Or is that his dad? Is Rory's anyways?
I think it's his dad.
Yeah. Used to play for like Stoke or Sunderland with the long throw in. But either way, this game's going to be fun just because of the storylines. But there was 3 bets that I wrote down here that I was really excited about. I think we're going to keep the theme of corners and wagers going here for my last 2 bets. I think Man United get on the front foot. I think the Ipswich are as we've seen throughout the season, they're likely to concede a lot of attacking play, concede possession as well. I think United hit over 6.5 corners. It's plus 100, so strong odds there. And I think they come. I wouldn't be surprised to see United come away with a pretty big win in the inaugural match here for Amorim.
Yeah, do we still get the new manager bump here? Because we already got the bump with Van Nistelrooy. Are we getting the double new manager bump? Is that what we're getting?
That's good. You're asking the right questions. I think we do. They're United playing well in the last couple matches here since Ten Hag left, and the attack is pretty healthy. The back line's been a little bit dinged up here throughout the first 11 matches of the season. So I think we do get another bump. The new manager bump.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll see how they play. We'll see if they're going to be, right off the bat, one of these teams that are a little more possessive. Under Ten Hag, it wasn't really, you can never really guess if they were going to have more possession than a team like Ipswich, or they wouldn't. They obviously have the players to have success. So, it's at 7 corners plus 100 odds. It's not terrible odds given that it's Ipswich Town. And Ipswich have a ton of injuries as it is. So Ipswich coming off the 2-1 win against Tottenham. They also played, that was basically a five defenders in that one. So, if they played super defensive like that again.
Cheeky little reminder of that result right after going over the Tottenham game.
Miles, Ipswich to score first, United to win plus 650. Okay. Maybe. I could see that. Maybe, Ipswich have more success in the first half. Amorim comes in at halftime, is like, fellas, we got to do better. You got to do better for me. We got to get the double manager bump. They come back in the second half. United get the win. Final match of the weekend, and the last one we're talking about. This is Monday Night Football. I always love talking about Monday Night Football. We got Newcastle at minus 205 to win, West Ham plus 500. Newcastle were minus 160 a couple weeks ago, and that is now minus 205. I was expecting to see around that minus 160 number when I first looked at these odds. And then I looked at the odds, and I was like, oh, man, the hate on West Ham is real. I think I saw a report over the international break that, like, multiple West Ham players just hate Lopetegui. So, when that happens, I got to go with the other side. But Newcastle are also playing well, and they're at home. It seems like they've kind of turned. I feel like I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but it seems like they kind of turned in the team from a couple years ago, a little more defensive, trying to get those 1-0, 2-0 wins. I'm not sure this one's going to go too crazy. Dan Burn is suspended, so maybe that changes some things, but I can't imagine, Lloyd Kelly, guy, center back, left back from Bournemouth. I don't think it's going to matter that much here. So let's just do Newcastle money line. I'm taking that minus 205, putting in a single game parlay. Newcastle money line with under 3.5 goals, plus 145. The only way this doesn't hit is if West Ham just give up on their manager and it's like 4-1 Newcastle, pile on the goals, and my bet loses. But let's just take the under 3.5 here, plus 145.
I love it. I mean, Newcastle 2 seasons ago were like one of probably the best defensive sides. Probably, City was up there as well. But like I just, when they got into the Champions League, like that season, they were just, very less like open. They were just at home. They were pretty much invincible, it seemed like, and they would, win those games. But yeah, this is West Ham trending the wrong way for sure. So the over 3.5 or under 3.5 seems like the better play, just given Newcastle's style.
Yeah, Newcastle's last couple home matches, 1-0 home against Arsenal, 2-0 home against Chelsea, 1-0 home loss against Brighton, but they were the better team in that match. 21 shots compared to 10 shots in that game. So just a few of their recent home matches. They even have the 1-1 match against Manchester City. So a lot of these games showing, stout defense, low scoring. That's kind of what I'm going with again. But that's 6 matches, 6 bets. Here's the cheat sheet if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter. What other games do we got here? Anything else that stands out? Of course, we have Liverpool traveling to Southampton. What's your Liverpool bet this week, Chris? Are Liverpool going to allow a goal, I guess is the question.
I didn't even look at that game because I didn't.
They're about like minus 300 to win or so.
What's their like win in a clean sheet? That one's been pretty money lately.
That is a bet that I will be looking at. I think it's about minus 110.
Is that that's in game props? I think winning margin.
It will be in my article, so check that out when that's posted. RotoWire.com/.
Oh, is it okay? Maybe I'll save it for the people then. That would be the one that I'm interested in. Usually, is there an under? Maybe an under bet could be fun, just given that Liverpool hasn't been winning like 6, in impressive fashion. Under 3.5, minus 140. I actually don't know. I don't want to give out any bad ideas here.
Under 2.5.
Yeah, if you're spicy. I just Southampton, not great. I would love to get on under 3.5, like a Liverpool and under 3.5 or something. I don't know what that would be. I'm gonna shut up and not give out bad bets.
Yeah, I'll take a 2-0, 3-0 kind of bet. I think that's maybe 1-0. Maybe 1-0.
Yeah, I think you got to give out like a exact goal bet, like exact Liverpool 3-0. That could probably be fun.
I'll set with the 2-0. You got anything else here for game week 12?
No, we got we're back to the early games on Saturday. And then is there a Monday game that I saw?
Yeah, come on. Where you been? I just talked about Monday Night Football. Newcastle, West Ham.
Sorry, I was trying to look up these Liverpool bets while you were. But yeah, so no, big week. Like I said, my 2 games to keep an eye on are that Bournemouth Brighton game and then City and Tottenham game will be fun.
I think there's a few more. Everton, Brentford. One team loves defense. One team loves scoring goals and giving up goals.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty intriguing one there. Even though the team names maybe aren't as big as some of the other ones, and then we got, of course, Amorim's debut. So there's a lot of stuff going on this weekend with some fun things. But either way, you can find Chris at CHROwen8 on Twitter. I am at RotoZdroik, and that is game week 12. We'll be back next week, probably a little earlier. We got Thanksgiving over here in the States. Let's win some bets, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thanks, Adam.